Today's podcast is brought to you by New Media, spelled N-U-M-E-D-I-A, the streaming media company that's taking on the big cable and satellite providers. If your cable bill has gotten out of control, listen up. You can get this amazing app at getnewmedia.com. It works on your TV with Amazon Fire Sticks and on tablets, phones, and devices. It's a convenient and cost-effective way to watch live HD TV and all your favorite premium channels. This isn't your typical TV app, like, those big companies. New Media has 2,000 channels with all the bells and whistles for one low price. You'll get beautiful live HD TV, over 100 children's news and entertainment channels, premium movie channels like Showtime, Cinemax, Stars, and HBO, dozens of sports channels. You'll never miss a game. A huge selection of international channels, something for everyone. Pay-per-view is also included in the New Media package. There are no long contracts. It's pay as you go, no hidden fees or TV box rentals. As a New Media member, you can use this app on up to 5 TVs or devices. The main requirement is a solid internet connection. That's it. GetNewMedia.com is the website to get all this for only $49.95 per month. That's GetNewMedia.com. You'll thank me later.
Welcome to Oh Hell No with Nicole.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Oh Hell No podcast. Today we have Kari Byron. She is a former Mythbusters host and professional crash tester, and she has written a book called Crash Test Girl, an unlikely experiment in using the scientific method to answer life's toughest questions. Welcome, Kari.
Hi, nice to be here.
Yeah, thank you for joining me on the Oh Hell No podcast.
Of course.
So, I read your book and I really like it. I love the way you apply these different scientific, what do you call them? Methodologies, if you will, to everyday life issues. Love it. So I want to kind of go through, some things with you and just get your, opinion on certain things in life and just what you went through and things like that. So the first thing I want to talk about is career. So how do you turn your passion into steady, reliable income? In your book, you talk about your journey. Can you tell us what your dream job looked like when you were starting out and what led you to Mythbusters?
Well, when I was starting out, I went to college for art and film mostly were what I was concentrating on. And I really did want to be an artist. I wanted to be a sculptor, I think in 3D. So being a starving artist is a goal for me. I like the food. So I was trying to figure out, how do I create a career around something I love to do? I love art. I love sculpture. Well, I started looking around, and in the Bay Area where I live, there was a lot of special effects shops and these incredibly beautiful sets and character design and monster making and places like ILM where they were making Star Wars. I thought I could do that. I could do sculpture for a living. So I went and sought out places that did special effects, and it just turns out that the place that I found where apparently everybody in the industry gets their first job is M5 Industries. This is a place owned by Jamie Heineman. He is one of the hosts on Mythbusters. He's the guy with the beret. Now, it was a prop-making, toy prototyping, special effects shop. And I walked in there with what I think is a mediocre portfolio, but I took a chance and decided I was going to just show it to him anyway, even though I was feeling very insecure and scared. So I showed him a bunch of drawings I did. There's some sculptures in there, and he flipped through the whole thing with such disinterest till he got to the last page sculpture that he said, maybe you can work with this. And I looked at him and I was just like, okay, I'll work for free. And right there, he's like, okay, come back tomorrow. Like it was the fact that I could put myself out there and I offered to work really hard and work for free that I think got my foot in the door.
And I used to watch Mythbusters with my husband, so I've seen the show. He was like addicted to that show. And, you just kind of end up watching what your spouse, boyfriend is watching. And it was really interesting, some of the stuff that you guys used to do on that show. So it's a really
I mean, I thought I was going to get into special effects, but this, I'm an adventure seeker. That's what I do, is I look for things that are scary and hard so that I can kind of test myself and constantly create a better person. So, going into Jamie's shop and hoping to get into special effects, I started learning things, and I really liked what they were doing with Mythbusters. So I'm just like, okay, well, I'm going to help out behind the scenes. So I started helping out behind the scenes. I would do building for them. I would make myself as useful as possible. And then, I never thought I would be on screen. I'm an inherently shy person. So, when they started asking me to explain what I was building, and then they liked it, and then they decided, hey, you're a host now, and just kind of turned the cameras around. And I just unwittingly became a television personality out of nowhere. I went from being a background person to front of the camera.
That is amazing. So always say yes to opportunity. You can change your mind later. And guys, I just want to let you know that I'm taking certain things from her book, and I just want her to discuss them. So that's where all of these little sayings are coming from. So this is something that I found in the book that I really liked. Always say yes to opportunity. You can change your mind later, but if you say no at first, you might not get another chance. So I wanted to ask you, what have you ever said no to that you regret?
I don't ever remember regretting saying no. I didn't really just, I'm more of the, I will show up, and if the situation is uncomfortable, then I leave. If I get invited to the party, like, I'm going to go to the party or to the job interview, even if they don't think the job is right, because you never know who to meet when you get there. Lead you someplace else. I mean, I have made a lot of good friends through going to places I didn't feel like going to, or I've gone on job interviews that I've met somebody through that job interview, but not necessarily, it wasn't the right job to start with. I have had a lot of coffees with people that I make coffee dates with strangers that are in fields or in careers that I've been interested in, just like their brain. And, sometimes it leads to nothing, but you figure you walk away having had a good coffee. Like, you're ahead.
Right, absolutely. So what was the best opportunity that you took but felt unsure about when you said yes? If there's any.
Mythbusters. I really was scared to become a part of Mythbusters. I mean, it was a weird and wild opportunity. And, I am shy, so the fact that I was going to be on TV and millions of people watching me, that seemed terrifying. I questioned it every now and then. I'm like, why am I doing this?
Yeah.
But then, it turned into one long, crazy adventure that's opened so many doors for me.
Yeah, absolutely. That's got to be really cool, though. Like never even thinking that something like that could happen to you. And then there you are on TV, So
it's also afforded me the opportunity to create opportunities for other women and other girls. Like, it's been a really great place to land for a really long time, because through it, I've been able to introduce other women to jobs that they might want part of, or, actually hire them into my networks.
Yeah, and that's always the best thing, when you can, help other people get a foot in the door. It's awesome. So in your book, you talk about money, and you discuss finding out that your male co-hosts were being paid more than you. And you guys were all doing the same thing, pretty much, hosting the show, doing the experiments, things like that. And you guys also basically have the same qualifications in terms of education and all of those things. Your situation worked out because, your co-host, as you wrote in the book, came together with you and fought for you to kind of get the same money that they were getting, because they didn't even know that was happening. But I wanted to ask you, why do you think that this is the norm? And what advice would you give to women who make this discovery?
I mean, I honestly think it's the norm because it's been institutionalized for, and a company's job is to get to pay the least amount, and your job is to get paid the most. So for so long, it's been cheaper to hire women, and it's just kind of institutionalized. It's especially with companies when you're dealing with foreign entities as well. And I think women are less often apt to discuss salary, to walk away from it if they're not getting enough, to push for a higher salary, or to find self-worth and value. I find a lot of women have that problem with believing that they're worth as much as they want. I feel like a lot of us are, it's very easy to take what's offered rather than the security of saying, okay, well, if you don't give me more, I'll walk away. I think that's the very hardest thing to do.
Yeah. And then in your situation, like when you first found out and stuff, were you a little afraid that, man, if I rock the boat, maybe I'll lose my job? Like, did that ever cross your mind, or you just didn't care?
Well, at that point, I was pretty well cemented into the show, and I was mortally wounded by the fact that I was getting paid less because I had asked why, and I was like, give me a logical answer. I'm a very logical person. Tell me why, because I've seniority. I've been there longer. We all have the same job title. We all have the same educational degree, a 4-year degree. Like, just give me, and they couldn't come up with anything that was satisfactory. So in the end, I just decided to get my Norma Ray on. At this point, I didn't have a family at this point, so it was a little easier for me to take this on. But I went down to Hollywood and I interviewed agents. I was like, okay, this is what I do when I don't know how to do something. I don't know how to do contract negotiations, so I'm going to find an expert. I always try to reach out to people and not be afraid to ask for help.
Yeah.
So another thing that I think a lot of women have trouble doing is asking for help. So I went and interviewed every agent in Hollywood that would take a meeting with me and found the strongest I could find. And he told me he's got a strong mom and he's going to be an advocate for me. And I've stayed loyal to him ever since.
Wow, that's pretty amazing. So now when you have to negotiate stuff, do you feel more confident and stronger that you're going to get what you deserve?
I think the hardest thing is believing that I deserve more. So I still have that agent, and I'm lucky to have an advocate, but I will do my research. I will find out what my market value is, what I should be paid, what other people are getting paid before I go back and discuss salary with someone. I've got my agent that's going to do all of the hard back and forth, but I definitely have elicited enough help and enough, I talk to peers in my network as well. I think it's really important for us to network as women to find out exactly what we should be being paid so that we can go in with a reasonable offer.
Yeah, because I always avoid conversations about money. I feel like what you make is your business. I don't really care. I don't want to know. Just because that's just how I am. I don't know. But then I agree with what you said about sometimes us not knowing that we deserve, more for our time, our knowledge, our whatever we're putting, forth. So I definitely agree with that. And that's just, I don't know how we conquer that. You know what I mean?
I think that personally, my current journey is I want to change it from within. So I am trying my very hardest to slowly crawl my way up the ladder so that I can help bring others with me. And I often counsel other women who've called me, within my field, other science communicators or women in television call me and said, so how much should I make for this? I'm like, okay, let me get you in touch with this agent and this guy, and this is how much I make when I make those talks. Mm-hmm. So go ask for the exact same. Like, just try to create community, because we have a really tough battle as females in entertainment. So if we can create community and networking and support each other and help each other get the job and know the information, I think it's going to be helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk a little bit about sexuality. So you touch on sexuality in your book, and an episode you worked on where you took on a myth about whether large boobs led to bigger tips. What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts on the industry today and the Me Too movement?
The Me Too movement has come after my career, so
yeah, definitely. But no, just looking at it and now, and you're like, oh my God.
I don't know a woman, especially in the entertainment industry, that doesn't have a dozen Me Too movement, stories under their belt. We've all dealt with it, especially in science tends to be very very masculine. And our viewership on science shows is like 80% men in the audience. So it's definitely been something that's a constant conversation to me, because I what's a good feminist? What should I be doing? Well, what am I doing wrong? How can I help? We definitely, my show was filled with some pretty enlightened people, so I didn't really have to deal too much with attitude, and our audience as well became very protective of me. Mm-hmm. At first, I caught a lot of flack for being the only female, and I was questioned my credentials, being that maybe you're on the show because you're a girl, or maybe you're on the show because you're a cute girl. Like, it was definitely something that was on the message boards. And to this day, I don't think my co-hosts have Facebooks that are completely dedicated to their butt or feet. Like, I'm pretty sure I'm the only one on the show that has that. So I'm trying to cross the line with sexuality. I want to be the kind of woman that owns it and can both be a sexual being, but at the same time not have that be my entire value. Luckily, I've been on a science show, so it's been a battle, but not as much as I'd say as a woman in Hollywood that's just that goes out to be an actress.
So tell us about the FHM Men's Magazine shoot and what you learned from that experience. Now, I read it, but, I want you to tell everyone about it.
So early on, I got this sort of strange kind of reputation as, like, the sexy geek girl. I think it's because I'm an accessible girl. I'm a very girl next door, like an actual girl next door, not a Playboy girl next door. So I had some viewers that were crushing on me. So FHM came in and said, "Hey, we would like to do a pictorial shoot of you." Now, I would have preferred Vogue called, but Vogue wasn't calling for based reality show. So I was like, okay, well, maybe I'll do it. Then a senior executive got wind that I had this offer, and she called and she said, like, "Don't do it. This is going to be the worst thing. No one will ever take you seriously because you can't be a sexy girl and have people listen to you." I'm like, why? Like, all of my rebellion, all of my punk rock rebellion went off right there. I'm like, wait. Why can't I be a girly girl, a sexy girl, also like welding and building and science? Why can't I own all of these? Why? I don't understand. So my rebellion, even though she really meant well to try to help me out, I ended up saying, okay, I'll do the shoot. I just, here are my boundaries. Like, I don't want to wear anything more or anything less than you would wear on a beach. So, a sexy little outfit and a lab coat, and it was ridiculous. And it was a very sexualized science experiment. The whole thing I just thought was hilarious. And I kind of laughed my way through it because it was just another adventure. I'm like, okay, I'm going to go on this adventure as well, and I'm going to learn from it. And, I'm going to take in all experiences. I'm a traveler. This is what I'm going to do.
Right.
So I went to the FHM shoot, and it was very professional. Like, nobody made me feel weird at all, other than the outfit was a little revealing. But the part that was crazy is I watched the Photoshopper on the spot. He's like, "Oh, you want to see what we're going to do?" And I thought he was kidding. He blew up my boobs to cartoon size. He made my arms skinny mini. He made my thighs, which I'm a thin girl. It looked crazy how skinny he made my thighs. So it gave me sort of a skeletal body that, physics would not actually be able to contain the boobs that they also put on me, and, made my hair all perfect. And I just thought the whole thing was hilarious, and that maybe the magazine wouldn't be quite that Photoshop. But when the magazine came out, it wasn't me at all. It was a ridiculous cartoon version of who I am. So, I mean, I took the whole thing sort of as a joke, and it didn't offend me. I didn't take it too seriously. But in the book, I did sort of like a little joke about, I took the drawing of it from FHM, and I show you where my actual arms go to and where my actual legs go to and where they photoshopped me, so that you can tell, like, the pictures are not very realistic, but, the men's view of who you are, this is what they want to see. That's the message I got. And it's a bit ridiculous. I think that my audience liked me as girl next door, who didn't have the giant boobs and who actually had big, strong arms. So I think that by trying to cater to men, they actually missed the point completely.
Yeah. That's crazy. They're so stupid. I don't know why they Photoshop pictures like that. Because a lot of celebs complain about that. Like they'll take pictures for a magazine and they'll like Photoshop out their freckles or, make their skin lighter or, all sorts of stuff. And it's just like, what are you people doing?
What's wrong with a couple freckles? I thought the pictures in their raw form. I mean, I had my hair all done. I thought I looked great. I was in my 20s, so I was pretty fit. Like the pictures were fine. They didn't need to make me look like a crazy cartoon.
So do you ever look back and say, man, I should have listened to that lady? Or do you feel like it was just a part of your journey and you're glad you did it and now you learned something from it and just carried on?
I mean, that I don't really regret. I just I like to say, the only times that I felt weird about it are maybe when my daughter Googled my name when I wasn't, and she posted these pictures, or thinking that some of the parents in the system say, it's like, okay.
So you said you only felt weird about it when your daughter Googled it and Googled your name and those pictures popped up. And she's like, who's that?
Mostly because where those pictures lead. There's this rule in the nerdiverse that if you can imagine if there's a porn about it. So there's a lot of Photoshop that is a lot worse on the internet. So if she stopped at those pictures, I'm okay.
Yeah. Okay, so I wanted to ask you, with all of that being said, in your chapter about sexuality, how do you think women can remain sexy, smart, confident, and in control in this climate? Because, there's a lot of stuff going on, and women are, banding together and speaking out about, all of the negative things that they've experienced, in the industry or whatever. But at the same time, I feel like we should be able to not feel weird about wearing something sexy or being sexy or embracing that part of ourselves, because women are coming out and saying this happened to me, I still feel like we should be able to speak our truth, but also own our sexuality, be able to be a smart, strong, sexy woman. How do you think that's all possible in the industry today?
I think that us as females banding together, we should also stop judging each other. Mm-hmm. You're a working mom or you're a stay-at-home mom, whether you breastfeed or not, whether you want to dress sexy or not, attack each other and being such cannibals about our gender. I think that's the only way it's really going to progress, because my brand of feminism is going to be different than somebody else's brand of feminism, but it's all okay because you're just being you and communicate when it's an abuse. Like there are definitely times that I've been super glue my butt to a table that I was sitting on, mm-hmm. and then use a kicker to make the glue dry really fast, and actually it glued my clothes and my underwear to my skin, and I had to go in the bathroom and rip off that part of my pants and duct tape the holes back at the super abusive boss. So I decided to start communicating that because it was not okay with me. And that's why I put it in the book. I think we have to report abuse. I'm not an expert.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, what do you think? How do you talk to a lot of people? What do you think is going to change this climate?
I don't know. I feel a little nervous. I feel like men are going to start treating us really different and not in a positive way. I feel like now they're going to be like super afraid to ever say anything, period, because, oh my God, she might, say that I was trying to sexually harass her or abuse her or whatever. Like, I feel like I think it's good that women are coming forward and talking about all of the horrific things that have happened to them, because it is something that they should, put out there so that it won't happen again to other women, because that's just terrible to have to go to work and deal with something like that. But at the same time, I feel like some of it is uber sensitive. Like, I feel like just the way the world is right now, everyone is super duper sensitive about everything. So any little thing that's said, it's just like, oh my God, that's cultural appropriation. Oh my God, you're racist. Oh my God, like you're sexually harassing me. Like, it's just so crazy. So I'm just like sitting back.
I know, and it's truly like the men and the women who are probably the most enlightened are the most scared, which is really because they really do care.
Yeah.
They're scared of misstepping. It's really sad.
Yeah. So it just makes, everyone second guess everything. Can I say that? Is that okay? Am I going to get in trouble? Did I did, like if someone just says, oh, you look nice today. And they genuinely just mean, hey, you look great today. But, there's nothing behind it. It's like you can't even say that anymore because if you do, it's inappropriate. You're sexually harassing someone. So it's just, I don't know. There has to be some kind of medium, but how we get there, I don't know. So
I feel like deep down, everybody really knows the lines. They really know.
Yeah.
I think that I think that you do, and if you don't, you ask. I think it's okay to ask. Is it appropriate for me to say this? Is it appropriate for me to ask? Because you're not going to learn unless you ask those questions. But in a time that's this sensitive, maybe it's educate yourself on what the people around you, read your audience, basically. Like,
yeah.
I think that it's a skill you need to learn. Read your audience, figure out what's appropriate, and ask. I would rather a man ask me, is it okay that actually, that makes me uncomfortable, so please don't. And then from then on, I won't.
Exactly. And like you said, people know. Like, you should not be talking about jerking off or sex or like things like that at work with your coworkers. Like, excuse me. No, not unless you have like a very close friend at work and you guys have those kind of conversations in private at lunchtime, maybe in your car or, on the way to the mall, and you're talking about, stuff that you guys can talk to each other about, but not your boss, or, your boss shouldn't be commenting on your breasts. You shouldn't be commenting on his package. Like, hello, those things are inappropriate, right? So I feel like you hit it on the head. Like, people know what they should and shouldn't do. And some people abuse their powers, and it's just unfortunate, But I think we just got to...
And, maybe just say it when you're uncomfortable because, they get away with it for so long that they start to think that it's okay.
Exactly. Speak up, because, I don't know, I feel like everything happens as it should. So, you got to take care of you. So,
hey, just like everybody else, we're working through this. This is a conversation that if it constantly keeps going, that maybe we might come to some conclusions. It's all a big life experiment, right?
Yeah, I agree. I really think so. And I'm just glad that the conversations are happening so, we can just figure it out. So what was the most difficult part of working with all men, if you can remember anything being really difficult?
Well, being a pregnant woman was very difficult because I didn't have the sympathies. They quite didn't get it. Like, all of a sudden, I had all of these needs. But the number one hardest thing about working with an entirely, when all the dudes were in charge, were porta potties. We would go to these remote locations, and they couldn't understand why they needed to spend the extra money to get a porta potty out to location.
Mm-hmm.
Like, no, I can't go pee in the woods and some random stranger hiker comes out of nowhere. That is horrible.
Yeah.
Like, you need to get a toilet for women. And once we started getting some women in power in the productions, that's when we actually started getting toilets on location. So, I mean, that's a very situational experience. But for me, it was all about the bathroom.
Yeah, I don't blame you. I would not want to be peeing in the bushes either. You never know what's crawling up a leaf. So
there's rattlesnakes in those bushes. Come on.
Yes.
I'm way too close to the ground.
No, thank you. So you talked about being depressed at 12 years old. And I wanted to know if you have figured out what triggers your depression and how do you manage it as an adult?
Well, it took a long time for me to figure out that I was depressed because, when you're sad and you're young, you just think that, let me assign some blame to something. So when I was in a adult life with a good apartment and a person I loved, and all of a sudden I was still going through some of these crippling sadnesses, I was like, oh my God, this isn't something that happens because of something else. This is something that just happens. I have depression and I need to figure out how to fix this. So I wouldn't say that I haven't figured it out at this point. I don't think anybody does, but I've done a lot of personal experimentation to figure out what to do and what not to do. I found that I don't react very well to antidepressants or drugs. They don't work with my system. I realize that they are hormonally triggered because I can tell when I'm going to start, and knowing that they're going to pass, and I can treat it almost like, personally, I can treat it like a sickness. Stop drinking, start exercising, go be around people. Like, I've got a step-by-step plan that no matter how hard it is, I need to get out and take walks. Or, I think everybody has to deal with it in their own way. Mm-hmm. Some people need medication, but I think once you recognize it as an adult, it's a lot easier to deal with because you can deal with it. When you're young, you just think that you're sad or crazy, or people think that it's teenagers, or, whereas now I know what to do.
Absolutely. Yeah, but that's good. You do have a handle on it in a way, where you can, certain things about yourself, and you know what you need, and you give yourself what you need. So give yourself some credit.
Well, the reason that I put it in the book is because I've done a lot of touring around and talking to girls and STEM advocacy. And, I talked to this one girl who told me that she goes through depression, and she sees me as, role model for her, and I'm just always perky and happy, and how do I do it? And I was like, girl, listen, I have total severe depression. I've gone through bouts of just like crying on the floor that I can't leave the house. And she was so shocked, and she started to cry because it made her feel so good to know that somebody that she had seen in my role had what she had. She said it gave her a lot of freedom. And, she wrote me later saying thank you, because she was able to deal with it knowing that it wasn't just her, and to see me talk about it. So I'm gonna put this in the book. I'm gonna let people who watch me over the years know that this is something that I've dealt with, so that maybe it's a little easy for them to deal with too.
Yeah, and that it's, you're relatable and it's manageable. Like, it's not the end of the world. You can still, live a quality life and, just manage it. So when you had your daughter, you suffered from postpartum. What did you learn from that whole experience? I know pregnancy is hard.
Postpartum is hard. You already have this little baby, and it's mine didn't manifest in the way that it would have anything to do with like this, putting my child in harm or anything like that. It was just a personal hell of just being really depressed and almost like a zombie. That, you're already sleep deprived and your whole life has changed. But, I got postpartum something wicked, and trying to bring that onto set when I had to be perky and happy was hard. I found that I almost had to become a different person just to make it through that. But I knew, because I'd been through depressions before, I knew it was going to pass, which kind of gave me this hope that there's light, so that some days you left, walk through your day till you get through it. And I remember like drying tears because I had, just been in the bathroom pumping milk, and I had, a 5 a.m. call on set, and I was the lead, and it was just going to be about me. And I remember just like putting makeup over my red eyes and just saying, okay, you're just going to have to woman up and do this, and just forcing myself to fake it. And somehow all of that smiling penetrated and kind of made it so I could make it through. This is different for everybody, but this is just how I did it. I kind of had to soldier on personally. I tried, I had tried antidepressants before. They didn't work. So that's just my story.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think women are superheroes. Can you imagine if men had to have babies and go through all this stuff? Forget it.
Depends on the man. It really does. I've met some pretty strong men. Maybe they could handle it.
I don't know. I think even the strong ones, when it comes to that, having a baby, oh my God, and having to work and do everything else and take care of that baby, and then you're going through like postpartum, forget it. I don't know. They wouldn't.
The craziest thing that they don't tell you when you are breastfeeding a baby is that when you stop breastfeeding, you're going to get a rush of hormones that's going to cause postpartum again. You're likely to get depressed. Nobody talks about a lot of these things. It's almost like you're not allowed to be sad. You just had a baby. But, you stop breastfeeding, it often triggers depression once again. But if you don't expect it and you don't know what's coming and think about it, it's going to catch you by surprise. And once again, you're going to think you're sad for no reason.
Wow, look at that. Yep. Thank God. I mean, I don't know. I think maybe with my first baby, I had that, but I was too young to really even realize. I was in my 20s. So, but I was just always sad, and I don't know. I really didn't know. But now looking back, I'm like, I think that I did have that, you know? So,
Well, now you could have way more babies.
no, I have another one, and I'm done. I'm 40. I'll be 43. So I'm like, that's it for me.
Yeah, me too. I'm done.
Yeah. So, setbacks. In your book, you talk about worrying that one day you would be fired because a part of you seemed to think you didn't belong there. So, I want to know, why did you feel that you didn't belong there, even after being there and doing such a great job on the show?
A lot of people have imposter syndrome, where you always are just waiting for the other shoe to fall and somebody to all of a sudden be like, hey, wait a minute, this isn't your beautiful life. You know, like the Talking Heads song. It was so crazy and so weird, and I couldn't believe that I had created this world for me. So, I mean, I think that I always kind of worried that it was going to end, and if it did, and I had defined myself by it for so long, what else was I going to be?
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. And I know about that imposter syndrome. Sometimes I have that too. And I'm not
I think
even
everybody does.
living a fabulous life. I mean, it's great, but it's, you know, I'm not on TV and stuff. But yeah, sometimes I feel like, you know, just like if stuff's going good, I'm like, oh, this stuff is going great. I'm like, something bad's going to happen, you know?
Yes.
It's so crazy. We need to stop it. We need to stay out of our own way. So
we're human. We can't. This
I know.
is just the human condition.
I know. We have to work on it, though. We really do. It's terrible. So your time at Mythbusters ended over not being able to reach agreeable terms on your contract with new leadership in place. Looking back, do you feel like it was time for you to move on to the next chapter in your life, and it was kind of the way of the universe just forcing that next chapter for you?
Well, I mean, the show, I think everybody who worked there kind of knew, like, we had taken it to as far as we could take it, and it was starting to get, you know, a little plug and play, and I think we all knew that the show was coming to an end sooner or later. It still felt very abrupt because I had defined myself by it for so long, and I didn't really enjoy how the production company handled the end of our leaving, because it was we just changed the locks and you guys are gone. Like, it was very sort of horrendous when it ended very suddenly. But, you know, I think that it ended at a good time, and it ended almost at a high for me, because it was before the show started to really peter out. Like, it only went one season after we were let go of the show. The hard part for me is we were told not to tell anybody, and that the narrative was that, you know, that just things had changed, and, you know, the show was going to be different now. And then one producer went out in the press because they saw that the audience was in an uproar, and they were starting petitions, and they were so pissed that we were cut from the show that they changed the narrative and said, oh, those divas wanted too much money. And my heart broke when I read that article. I think it was in EW, because I was just like, what? You guys are my friends. We left on, you know, we left so agreeable and did everything that they asked. And it wasn't because we were asking for too much money. Like, the show had its budget cut in half, so they couldn't continue the show the way, you know, in its original form. So for them to change the narrative and make it on us instead of, you know, just the way that it was happening, I thought was somewhat cowardly, and it really did. It did really break me, and I think I went through a sadness after that again, just because I'd been so defined for so long, and I kind of hoped that it would end in a, I don't know, more monumentous way. So, you know, I've since, you know, that production company, we've worked together again. I've, you know, kind of taken the stance that, okay, this is business, and sometimes business is rough, and we're all just trying to make a buck here. So, you know, there's forgiveness, and it really did help me move into just as exciting and actually even more malleable to my new space. Like, I, as a grown woman, have opportunities that are different than when I was a perky young thing starting on Mythbusters. So I have much more exciting stuff on the horizon now.
Oh, that's awesome. Can you tell us about anything?
Well, I can't tell you about any TV stuff, because all that stuff is still in secret, but I can tell you that I have just, I am part of a startup company. I just started with a company called Smart Girls, and it's a startup and selling coding toys for girls for about a year. It was featured on Shark Tank, and it's this incredible company that the founder is this beautiful woman of color who has these dolls in every shade, and they are coding robot dolls that they teach girls computer science, but in a way that is different from the current market. So if you want your girls to learn coding, and they play with dolls, like this is a crazy, beautiful entree into that world.
Wow, I love that. Yes, my daughter, she likes that coding stuff. My husband bought her a robot that you had to like code it to get it to do different things, and she loves that because he's very nerdy. So they do the nerd stuff together. That's why he liked Mythbusters. So,
you know what? I get that. My daughter also super into coding, but we definitely noticed that if you look on the market, all of those toys they're very military or robots or very geared towards boy culture. And, a lot of girls will pull to that, but there's the girls that we're trying to catch are the ones that maybe want to wear a princess dress while they code. Let's make it for everybody. So
that's
girls
cool.
play different than boys. They are more into storytelling, and they play through. They don't necessarily just want the tasks. They want a little more to the story. So that's why we created dolls that ride a little, self-balancing scooter, but it still has all of these awesome, tasks they can do through their tablet, or, they can actually learn to code and still play in the way that they play.
I love that. I think that's great. And then you have your book that you just wrote, right? So that's amazing. How do you feel being an author? Was that something you even thought you would do? I mean, I know you liked writing and all that stuff, but did you think that it would actually happen?
No way. I'm a journaler. I'm a blogger. I find writing extremely stressful. The book writing process is so much hard work. It's really, really tough. I never thought I would do it, but I've told this story a couple of times because I think it really is the reason I wrote the book, is because, somebody had told me I should, and I was like, no, I don't want to do that. That's scary. You're an author. I don't do that. But then the next day I was trying to explain something to my daughter about, she was scared of doing something at school. And I was like, listen, bravery isn't superheroes. It's being scared to death and doing it anyway. And then I walked out of the room and went, darn it, now I got to write a book. I got to live the stuff that I'm preaching here. So I ended up calling the agent right after that. And I'm like, okay, I'll write a book. I'm going to be brave. My whole journey has been about creating opportunities and learning to be brave.
Wow. So do you feel like you've discovered your purpose, or do you feel like you're still searching?
I think the best thing about age is when you get to that age where you realize you don't know anything. The wisdom is that you really are always going to be exploring and always learning and always trying to figure it out. So I don't think I'm going to be my true self till the day I die.
And that's okay. So on the Oh Hell No podcast, I always ask my guests to share an Oh Hell No moment. Oh Hell No moments, we have them all the time. They're those little moments where you're like, oh hell no, that did not just happen. Or, oh hell no, this is great, but it's a moment of shock or disbelief. So share a memorable oh hell no moment with us. It could be related to your career or not. It could be personal.
It's funny because I have so many moments like that, but I put one in the book. That from when I was a young girl, I would say I'm going to say I'm a late bloomer. I got boobs way later than the other girls. But when I started to get a little bit of, female body, I decided I was going to be, for the first time, go in a Halloween costume that was a little sexier. And so I wore a belly dancing costume that my mom had when she was young. And I didn't really fit it because apparently she was more well-endowed than me. So I had stuffed the boobs, fit into this costume. And as I went across the front lawn where they were having a costume contest, I threw my arms in the air because I was super proud. And my falsies fell out of my bra and just da-dunk, 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 fell all the way down the stairs and landed right in front of my English teacher with the whole school watching.
Oh my gosh.
My boobs fell out. And I just remember that was my, oh, hell no moment. And then I had to go to class. So I ran and I put on my regular clothes because I had brought them just in case I couldn't pull this off on a full day. And I sat in my English class and my face is just flushed red. And my English teacher walks in and he goes, "Anybody have anything to share? Kari?" And everybody's like, "Ah, ha, 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 ha." I just had one of those moments where, like, I can either own this or just die where I sit. It's like, nope, got nothing. Thanks.
Oh my God. That is terrible. That's a really good oh hell no moment, because I don't think I would have went to class. Oh my God.
Oh, but I didn't. Here's the thing: I didn't perish right there and right then. So I got up the next day a little bit stronger, still humiliated,
right.
but I lived through it.
Good for you. You're awesome. All right, Kari, it was so nice talking to you. Tell everybody where they can get your book, Crash Test Girl.
Well, the easiest way to figure out all the outlets you can get Crash Test Girl is to go to karibyron.com/book. And then you can see it's on Amazon and iBook and all these different places, Barnes & Noble, or just stop into one of your big old bookstores.
Awesome. And we can find out about Smart Girls on your website as well?
Absolutely. That's spelled Gurlz, because I think Amy Poehler already had girls.
All right. That's great. Again, thank you so much for sharing a little bit of yourself with the Oh Hell No podcast. I really enjoyed talking to you.
Thank you. Talk to you again.